What's up, everybody? This is Tita. That's right, you know my show. Tita! Ay, must be the air in here. Anyways, my show's coming back on May 9th, so you need to make sure that you're watching it, okay? Make sure that you're telling somebody, and make sure that you hitting that subscribe button, okay? Don't be like that. Make sure that you push it, alright? Tita! My guest today is an internationally recognized Puerto Rican attorney and environmental and climate justice leader of African indigenous ancestry, born and raised in New York City. A national leader in the climate justice movement, ella is the co-chair of the Climate Justice Alliance. She is the executive director of UPRO's, Brooklyn's oldest Latino community-based organization. She was named one of the top 100 green leaders by Poder Hispanic magazine. She has been a featured speaker at local, national, and international forums and the White House Forum on Environmental Justice. That's right, my friend was at the White House, okay? She was talking there. Please welcome my friend, Miss Elizabeth Yeampierre. And welcome to my show.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. I've been dying to be in a conversation with you about this.
I know, you and I, we was on TV together, pero they didn't let us talk together. They kept cutting us off to talk about other stuff, pero I'm always grateful to be on TV, and especially with you, Nena.
It was amazing. I was like ecstatic to be on TV with you.
Well, Nena, let me ask you a question, because, a lot of people, they're meeting you for the first time, but I know you for a long time now. Talk to us a little bit about who you are, where you work, the kind of work that you do, because I think the people here need to really pay attention because the stuff you do is really important, okay?
My name is Elizabeth Yeampierre, and I run UPROS, which is Brooklyn's oldest Latino community-based organization, founded by Puerto Ricans in 1966. And we are a leaderful, intergenerational, matriarchal organization working at the intersection of racial justice and climate change. And so I am part of a national climate justice movement that is working really hard to make sure that our communities are not in harm's way as a result of recurrent extreme weather events that have already started happening and are about to get a lot worse.
Ay, Nena, the weather's been crazy, right? I mean, the other day it was like freaking freezing, and the other day it was like 90 degrees. That's crazy.
It is. It's changing in one day. 1 minute it's 2 degrees. The next minute it's 65. I was sharing with somebody that last week there were 31 tornadoes over the course of 24 hours across 9 states. You've seen what's happened in Puerto Rico, and you saw what happened in the Gulf South and in New York City, and the wildfires in California. We are expecting extreme heat and a change in the weather that can be cataclysmic. And so we have to talk about it, even though it's uncomfortable and scary and messy. We need to figure out how we as a community come together so that we can save the future for our children.
Mira, can I ask you a question? You think there could be a tornado in the South Bronx? Because I don't want a tornado to come here. I saw The Wizard of Oz, and I don't want to end up like Dorothy. Hi, Toro. I don't think we're in the Bronx anymore.
Well, listen, there have been 3 in Brooklyn.
Oh my
there have been 3 tornadoes in Brooklyn. Luckily, the damage has been superficial, like trees uprooted and things of that sort. But a tree lands anywhere in New York City, and it's going to take something out. It is not Kansas, right? So, but there have been 3 tornadoes in Brooklyn that I know of. So, I have a lot of love for the Bronx. Big ups to Simpson Street, where I lived when I was a little girl. But yeah, that can happen.
I didn't know you grew up on Simpson Street. I live right there on 142nd and Brook Avenue. I live there, and I used to live on 148 también, right there by near 3rd Avenue, the hub.
Yeah, I love the hub. All my family, Tiffany, Fox, Longwood, Kelly, my family all over the South Bronx. I was imported into Brooklyn.
And I hear a dog back there. That's your dog?
That's my Chihuahua. My Chihuahua thinks, that he thinks he's defending me. I'm sorry about that.
Chihuahuas think that they're defending somebody, but they just be making a lot of noise. Ay. Mira, una pregunta. So, we got tornadoes in Brooklyn. Like what's next? And I know that there's a lot of heat, and yeah, you could dry your clothes. You could put it on the roof and dry faster porque la secadora, my dryer's broken right now. But that's not good news, right? I mean, what's happening to the earth right now? Que everything's going crazy. Like, what's causing that?
So, that's a really good question. It's important for our communities to know that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is a scientists from all over the world, recently said that we have 7 years before cataclysmic events become a regular occurrence.
What? What
That's
you mean by
not
that? Cataclysmic, what's that?
cataclysmic is like Hurricane Maria was cataclysmic. It literally wiped, it really burned the entire island. Hurricane Katrina was cataclysmic. Superstorm Sandy was cataclysmic. Literally, extreme weather events, like we always think about sea level rise because that is something that's visually really interesting and people keep thinking the water is going to rise. Yeah, the water is rising, but the things that are going to affect the Latino community in particular and Black and indigenous people and people, of color is going to be extreme heat, high winds. We're going to see so much heat that we're not going to be able to grow the kind of food that we are accustomed to in different regions. Prices are going to go up. It's going to be more mosquitoes, more health impacts. So, it's all connected, right? There's going to be climate migrations, people moving out of particular territories, moving inland to survive the extreme weather events. And people have known for a really long time. We've been talking about this for a really long time, but I think people are in denial that this is happening, even though the weather is telling us that it's happening right in front of us. We're seeing it. We've witnessed people die, and thousands of people die as a result of climate change right here in the United States and in the Caribbean.
Hi, because
So,
those mosquitoes be driving me crazy. And yeah, it's
yeah.
getting high. The prices are going crazy. I can't even buy a thing of milk porque me quieren cobrar tanto dinero. That's crazy.
Yeah, and so that talking about the food and the price is really important because there are four things that we need to be aware of. One is electricity. We need to move to renewable energy, drinkable water because we can capture as much rainwater as possible, but that doesn't mean we can drink it. Food, having access to food sovereignty, and then the last one is wellness. And I share those with you because we're going to have to figure out, like, if there is a climate event that disrupts the supply chain, we won't have access to food. And so I think with COVID, people sort of were like, okay, we can take care of each other. We can gather food and we could share it. But people were able to do that because there was a supply chain that provided them with the food. But climate change is unpredictable, it's violent, and it is disruptive. And so we need to figure out as communities how we strengthen social cohesion so that we can provide each other with those things: access to energy, drinkable water, food, and wellness. And that used to happen in Puerto Rico in the most creative ways that you can think of. I mean, Puerto Rico's the canary in the coal mine, and they have been absolutely with nothing, have figured out how to take care of each other in every community. And it's a lesson for us. In the Climate Justice Alliance, we call it a just recovery, a people to people recovery, how we take care of each other. We can't expect the cavalry to show up. And I think that people in our communities are so used to government taking care of them. But what if the event is so big, like something out of a movie, where people don't show up and the cavalry doesn't come? What are we going to do for each other as a community? And so there are things that we have to do locally. There are things which is how we in community take care of each other. There are things that we need to do statewide and nationally in terms of trying to make sure that we're getting the funding to support the ideas that are coming from our communities so that they can have access to those four things that I mentioned.
Well, let me ask you something because I got two questions. It's like a two-part question, like they be doing on those interview shows, two parts. But mira, the first part is like I live in a building, right? I live in a five-floor building. It's a walk-up. So when you talk about renewable energy, like what can we do in our building? Porque right now I'm dealing with, the electric company que hay. And I don't feel, and then you got people calling like, oh, mira, save some money. Que we can help you save with this natural energy. And I'd be like, I don't know. I don't trust you. Y también, I have a cousin que she has a house. Pero she got like those things that absorb the sun, que they give you power. What you call those things? The solar panels. Pero those solar panels are freaking expensive. Tú sabes que she's paying so much money. Like, how you want us to live with, better energy, pero you're not helping us? Why those things are not free?
Well, yeah, that is the question. But what we're doing in New York City, at least what we're doing in our neighborhood, is we've mapped all the rooftops and all the backyards and all the places where we can put down solar arrays that would be owned by the community. And we just are about to launch the first community owned solar array in New York City, so that we are creating not just wealth in terms of ownership of the utility, but access to renewable energy. And so there are programs and resources available that are city, state, and federal to make it possible for your landlord, for example, for the owners to use the rooftop as a place where you could access not just energy, but also water. You could have some rainwater barrels installed so that your apartments can access water. You might, drinking it is another thing. You're going to have to test it and you're going to have to figure out how to do that. But
Because I
you
have I
should
have a
be,
breeder in my house. I could probably pour in the breeder. 'Cause the breeder
yes,
usually would that
exactly.
help to clean the water?
There are ways of making sure that you clean the water, but
Okay.
they're these stormwater barrels. They're easy to build. You could get all the parts from like, a Lowe's or, a Home Depot. I think it costs less than $25 to build them. And then you can have access to water. And then there's the, the solar panels. And looking at the sides of your building if you have backyards, to see where you could build these things called bioswales. There's a lot of different kinds of techie interventions that you could use that are easy to find online that make it possible. And it's interesting that you mentioned a building, because that's the issue in New York City, right? We don't have open spaces or big backyards. All we have is our backyards, our alleys, and our rooftops. And so the idea is to be really creative about where you do that. You could have on your rooftop a garden, a hydroponic garden that is covered, so that you could have access at least to some produce that will feed you in case there's an extreme weather event. And so you need to think about where you're going to be accessing food as well. And so that's what we're thinking. That's how we're thinking right now. It's some scary futuristic movie, but it is here, and we have gotten comfortable. We've gotten really, really comfortable because everything is so accessible. All you have to do is go to the supermarket or contact somebody to deliver your food. So yeah, it's now we need to figure out how we take care of each other. And I say take care of each other because often people either are thinking of fending for themselves, or you remember what happened with COVID with all that toilet paper, right?
Ah,
You got the crazy
yeah.
people. Oh my God, you got the crazy people who are greedy and who are want to snatch everything. So we need to be able to build relationships that make it possible for us to take care of each other collectively. And that way, it doesn't put all the pressure on one family. It could be that one family or a few families are thinking about renewable energy. Another family can be thinking about food sovereignty and food security. Another one can be dealing with water, and together they work with each other to take care of each other. It's kind of like something out of Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, where it's a dystopian future and they are working with each other to look out for each
Ay,
other.
that's crazy. That scares me porque I have seats on right there, and I go there to get my food, and then I take the plastic bags and I use them when I dye my hair. I mean, dye other people's hair because my hair's naturally dark. Pero let me ask you something, because maybe I want to learn how to like do the farming stuff to make like my little fruits and food. Pero where do I go for that? Because I have no idea. I mean, I live in a building, pero where do I learn to do stuff like that?
Well, I feel like every city, and maybe not, but I feel like almost every city has people that are involved in urban farming or that have access to that information. Certainly, so I am part of this national alliance called the Climate Justice Alliance that's made up of frontline leadership all over the country from Puerto Rico to Guam. And one of the areas that we work on is on food justice, and we work with farmers from Indian country, Black farmers, all kinds of people that were told for ages that not to be connected to the earth, and now realize that we need to reclaim our ancestral knowledge and start working the earth to grow food. And they have information on how you might be able to do that. So they're listed. All the members are listed in the Climate Justice Alliance website. But also, I would think that if you are, whether you're in the Southwest or the Northwest or the middle, in Chicago, there are organizations that have that information. So, and the reason I say that to you is that not all the solutions work everywhere, right? So it's different based on where you live. So, for example, in New York City, we've got a densely urban community, and the solutions look different there than they would in West Virginia or in Denver, right? Because the topography is different, the environment is different, what you grow is different. And so I would say look first to see what kinds of resources exist locally. Look up things online. Go to the Climate Justice Alliance website to see which of those organizations exist in your hometown, so that you can either volunteer there or ask for information that you might not have. But now would be the time to do that. I don't think that we could engage in navel gazing and wait till all of a sudden the sky is dropping on us. Now is the time. We don't have a lot of time before we can put in systems in place to protect our families and to ensure a future. And then on a mega scale, on a big scale, we need to support legislation that makes polluters pay and that moves us away from an extractive fuel economy, because they are the ones responsible. And right now, this particular administration wants to play it both ways. They want to make it seem like they care about climate. And you're going to hear a lot about that during on Earth Day, right? But at the same time, they're funding the fossil fuel industry, right? The dig, burn, and dump economy that got us here in the first place. So there's what you can do at home, what you can do as a community, and then what you can be doing to support those of us that are movement leaders that are trying to make sure that there's legislation that protects our communities. There's a lot. And the other thing is, look, we know that our communities are overwhelmed, that are dealing with displacement, with immigration issues, with extreme policing, with all of the things that our people historically have had to deal with. Add to that climate change, which is going to exacerbate all of the isms. We know this. So the idea is, how do you integrate a climate justice lens into the thing that you love, that you're passionate about? So that you don't feel like, oh my God, I have to learn an entire other field. No, this is an opportunity for you to figure out how everything from listen to music, to being an educator, to being someone who, works in retail. Like, there are, even in retail, we work with the fashion industry and a bunch of organizers within the fashion industry that are talking about decarbonizing the fashion industry, because they're a major polluter and abuse people's rights, the workers' rights. So there isn't a sector in our community that won't benefit from having a climate lens.
Whenever, you give me the address, all those polluters, and I'll go over there and I'll fight them, okay? Because I'll fight as many as I can. You just got to tell me where they live, okay? And let me know if I could take the train there, porque yo no tengo cajo.
Well, you could follow us on social media, whether it's on Twitter or on Instagram. It's kind of those places where we have the memes with all the information about the legislators, the legislation that we're trying to pass, who to call. For example, the governor of New York right now is negotiating to weaken a climate law that we helped pass in the middle. Scientists are telling us we got 7 years, and they're negotiating our lives. Like, they're compromising justice. So these are the times when you want to make those phone calls, when you want to send those emails, when you want to tag them on social media. And so if you go, there's a bunch of organizations that are really cool. Like, if you're in New York, it's New York Renews, which is a coalition of 300 members. I sit on the steering committee of that. Obviously, ours, UPROSE, UPROSE. Nationally, it's the Climate Justice Alliance. New York City wide is the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance. Is a lot of us. Like, we work literally like the climate is changing 24/7. And there's a lot of us, who would rather be watching something fun on television than doing this. But we have to fight. We have to fight. We have no choice. We're not going to sort of sit down and wait until the sky falls on us. inherited this mess. We didn't create this mess. And now we need to protect our people. And so we invite people who have ideas, who are creative. I also want to talk to the artists, because the artists sometimes think, what's our role? Oh my God. Artists reach hearts and minds in ways that those of us who hold a workshop or have a legislative briefing or do organizing a protest, they do it in a way that is profoundly spiritual and lands in your cells. And so there is a role for all of us to play. And so this is an invitation for those of you who may not be thinking about climate justice. We are climate justice activists, which means that we come from frontline communities. We are Black and brown people from frontline communities that are being disparately impacted. And we need you. This is an all hands on deck moment. So hit us up if you're interested, or you want to hold an event in your town, or you want to do something online, and we can provide you with materials, with information, so that you can hold this space and educate the people that you hold near and dear, and protect what's sacred. And protecting Mother Earth is sacred.
Let me, I really appreciate you, coming on the show and giving all this advice, because there's a lot of people, even in my neighborhood, and the lady down the hall, que ya no sabe, she doesn't know about all this stuff. We just know that one day is 90 degrees, and then the next day we're freezing again, and there's no heat. Well, mira, let me ask you this, okay? Because you mentioned something earlier that I think is really important, right? You were talking about, how do you survive in 48 hours? Vamos a suponer que there's no light, and you're like, "Ay, I'm gonna miss my show." Pero in 48 hours, how do we survive? Like, how do we prepare for that? Porque I don't want to get caught out there, and I can't miss my episodes of Criminal Minds tampoco. So you gotta prepare me. Tell me how I could be ready.
So right now at our organization, we're creating what we call these learning circles for people to share how we can survive those 48 hours. Everything from, if it's extreme cold, how we seal the windows and how we seal the doors to keep the air, the warm air from escaping, or cold air from coming in, to how we make stoves using bricks and clay pots so that we can cook over those stoves, these bottles that exist that make it possible for you to keep hot water for a good 48 hours. There's a whole lot of things that we can do. And to be honest, some of them affordable and accessible. It's hot in New York City, so you can hear the music outside.
I hear the music. I want to start dancing, but I'm trying to stay still.
But they're not playing freestyle, so I don't know who these people
you can't get like George Lamont up in there.
That's what I'm saying. That's
TK,
really the mark.
That's like my favorite.
Thank you. That's definitely the mark of summer in the city. Right. So there's a whole bunch of things that people can do. I was watching a bunch of hacks on TikTok, and TikTok is going to go out of business. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. But certainly you can also, look on YouTube on, how do you make sure that you can have, how do you filter the water? How do you keep it clean? There's a lot of content that I think is really useful. The idea is to find things that are affordable and accessible and easy to do, so that you don't, feel overwhelmed. And the other thing that I would say is to involve your children, to make sure that your children are learning these strategies on how to take care of each other, how to survive. You may have to think about pop-up schools if school is disrupted, and what that looks like, and what materials you would need at home, who in the community, what are the skill sets? Oh, one thing I do want to say, you need to digitize all the paperwork that is important to you, whether it's immunization records, report cards, marriage certificates, photos, because if you have to move quickly, you know how heartbreaking it is to lose all of our photos. Those are our memories of our family. So these are things that are doable. You need to digitize all important documentation, and that's easy to do and to save on a thumb drive or on your phone. You need to have solar operated backup generators for your phone and for your devices. You need a radio in case there are announcements about evacuations.
Now, Elizabeth, let me ask you a question, because I live in a building, okay? When you talk about backup generator, what can I get from, like, I have an apartment, it's son dos cuartos, it's not that big, but if I want to keep something that could, por lo menos, maybe, I don't know, charge my stuff, what kind of stuff does New York City allow? Porque bendito, I don't want to get stuck out there with something que grande, and then my super's like, no, you got to get that out of here, okay?
Yeah, so they're not that big and they're really kind of temporary. I think that the best ones are the solar operated ones where you could just leave it outside for a while. Because the truth is that if there's no electricity and you drain the thing, the device, it's difficult, but the sun will always power it up. I have, like, for example, for my phones and for my devices, solar packs that are, to recharge them. I was in Cuba and I literally just had the solar pack the whole time. And that's the way, if I couldn't find a plug, I would just get the energy from the solar device for my devices. So there's a lot of things out there to make it possible, but you need to start making a list. And then if you're in a building, you could put up a list of, like, have a meeting with people in the building and say, how can we come together to take care of each other if there are recurrent extreme weather events? Who's a teacher? Who's a doctor? Who's a nurse? Who knows CPR? Who's on a respirator? Who's on dialysis? Are there children that have special needs? Like, trying to get an assessment of who's in the building so that you can figure out how you can take care of each other if somehow there is an extreme weather event that what you don't want to do is be isolated and think that you're going to solve it by yourself. It is easier if you have a community of people that are working together to address these threats. And these threats are here and they're coming. I don't want people to freak out or to get scared, but, like, I always say, mi mamá dijo, no tapes el cielo con la mano, don't cover the sky with your hand. And it's always better to be prepared. And it's always better to think, what is my plan, than to have reality slap you in the face and you not be prepared. We care deeply about our elders. We care deeply about our children, and we would do anything for them, right? And so climate change is demanding that we do this, that we protect our communities and that we fight to move away from fossil fuel extraction, and that we find out what our municipalities are doing on climate adaptation and mitigation. And because we are not going to sit down and not push back. We're the global majority. We're the descendants of colonialism and enslavement, and we are inheriting a planet that has been literally torn apart by fossil fuel companies and multinational corporations who did it on our labor and on our lands, from extracting from our lands. And we're inheriting a mess that they created for us. It's a crime. It's a crime that they have committed over hundreds of years on the lands. And now the planet is saying, I'm done. And so the planet will continue, animals will continue, but we're the ones that can face this. We're the ones that may have to endure an existential threat. And so we need to start rethinking how we move through space and how we collect information. How do we take care of each other? We need to rethink that. And luckily, there's a lot of organizations that can provide you with the beginning. But also, to be honest, you have more answers and solutions than you realize. If you remember what your abuelita did and what your ancestors did to live in a way with the earth that honored the earth, if we could reclaim those traditions, I think we're going to be okay.
Wow, man, and I just want to say that I'm so fortunate, and I think everybody that's here is really lucky to have you, to take some time. I know you're really busy, Nena, and I really appreciate you, because I'm going to talk to my landlord today. I'm going to say, hello, let's get those little cubos, those little buckets where we can collect water, right? Don't be cheap. And maybe we could start, doing some farming stuff on the roof. I'm going to talk to him. He better not play
You can
himself.
do that.
I'm going to talk to him. But mira, Nena, if there's any links and things that could be helpful for people, I could put it in the description of the video so they could just click for it. Especially people that want to know more about what you do, especially like links to your organization and organizations that you support. And if you don't mind, before we go, if you could just tell people again where they could find you, and we take it from there.
So you can find me, like, I'm on Twitter. It's my last name at Yeampierre, and on Instagram, although I'm not great at Instagram, I'm trying my best.
Nena, you better get on it, okay? Because I'm on IG y también tengo TikTok. Though tú me estás diciendo que TikTok's gonna go away, whatever.
Yeah, I'm on TikTok too. But yeah, it may not last. And it's been a really great, it's been a great place to learn about these hacks, to grow food and to create things with the materials that you have at home. But there's Uprose in Brooklyn and Sunset Park, and there is statewide New York Renews, which is a statewide coalition to pass a package to move money so we can have infrastructure that takes us out of harm's way. And then nationally, it's the Climate Justice Alliance. It literally is the center of gravity on on the intersection of racial justice and climate change. And all of us are working, and we're talking about frontline communities, Black and brown people from Detroit, from the Southwest, from the Gulf South, from the Northeast, from all over the country. It includes Puerto Rico and Guam. And and that is a place where you might be able to find an organization where you live that might be able to provide you with information and support, and an organization that you might be able to volunteer for. So there's a whole lot of us all over the place. We are the children of the civil rights movement. And so we consider ourselves climate justice warriors. There is a difference between climate justice and climate action. Climate activists are pushing solutions that turn our communities into sacrifice zones. And our communities are fighting back against these pretty much white-led, multi-million-dollar organizations that think they know more about what we need to do than we do. We're not in that place anymore where we can accept white supremacy in the climate movement. We lead this thing, and we are people who come from struggle, and we are made up of a whole lot of us with a lot of knowledge. The solutions and the answers are in the collective, and we're here to basically fight for this and to support you in any way that you need to be supported. So I am deeply honored and blessed, and feel like I just really grateful that we can do this, because Earth Day for us isn't every day, isn't just one day a year. Earth Day and our fight to protect Mother Earth is a 500-year struggle, and Mother Earth is just saying, oh hell no, you all had your way with me, and I'm kind of done. So let's give some love to the mother, and make sure that we have a future for our children. So Ashe, gracias de corazón.
Oh, thank you so much. Y que Dios te bendiga, nena. Mira, thank you so much. And I can't wait to sit down with you again, maybe to talk about some other stuff. There's so many issues in the community that we could really just hone in on, Well, nena, gracias. I'll talk to you soon. You look amazing. Stay beautiful and keep doing your work, because it's really important. And you've touched so many people's lives with the work that you're doing. En verdad, you even touched me. I learned a lot today. Te lo dije, because I'm going to be fighting my landlord later today. I'm going to call him. I don't care what time it is. Anyways, nena, thank you. I love you. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, mil bendiciones. Take care.
Who's that special lady with a story to tell? It's TITA.
Yo, that's a hit.